I think that opioids have taken the city by storm.
My struggle started out at 13 with alcohol. I was an alcoholic for 10 years, and then I became introduced to pills, which then led into heroin. So I was an addict for years, 17 years, 18 years.
My daughter struggled with drug addiction for years, and so there was no shame left. When Riley died, I had already worked through all of that.
I was a little bit later in life when I started using drugs. I was raised right. I was raised in a Christian home with parents that were not divorced. My dad was my baseball coach and my basketball coach. I didn't fall into drugs till I was in my late teenage years. It was after high school.
Riley was a choir kid, a band kid. He loved music, taught himself how to play guitar, raised in church, baptized, youth leader at one time. He had a great smile, and he smiled at strangers.
My son Gabriel suffered from a substance use disorder, but at the time, I think he started using when he was probably in high school, maybe about the 9th or 10th grade. And when it was discovered that he was drinking and smoking pot, my husband and I did what most parents do.
It surpasses all socio and economic bounds. There's no demographic that it hasn't touched. We get calls from Firebrook to, the poorest parts of town. There's no specific group that it affects.
My journey with opiates started with my mother. I have a mother who is an addict. She's in recovery now. I have 2 sisters that was addicts. I have one that's still out there, and I have one that's in recovery. And I have a brother who is an addict who is still on opiates now.
Didn't want anybody to know that we were dealing with what we were dealing with at home. And we had, as a family, had created a perfect family picture. And so I hid it and tried to go around it.
I just kind of looked at it as a rite of passage, that this is something that a lot of teenagers do. But what was different about Gabriel and his journey was, as his friends, who also did some of the same things, as his friends began to get married and began to build lives and go to college, his use escalated from alcohol to pot to Xanaxes to pills, and eventually landing on heroin. And so that was our journey with him.
On his 18th birthday, he decided to celebrate by trying LSD, acid. May 3rd, 2014.
I don't have hard numbers of how many we get a day, but I know that sometimes it can be 10 in just my shift that I hear in my side of the town. That's not citywide in the whole day.
I was married for 10 years, and my husband had rheumatoid arthritis and fibromyalgia, so he was prescribed opiates for a while. So that intensified my addiction. When me and my husband separated, I came to Lexington, which made it very easy for me to get a hold of pills or anything else I needed. But once the pills became almost obsolete to get a hold of it, then turned over to heroin. My mom gave me my first shot of heroin, and then I became addicted afterwards.
I was really into weightlifting, and I tore my ACL in my knee at the gym, and the doctor prescribed me pain pills, and it just skyrocketed from there.
That night he had the house to himself, and he went by and saw his girlfriend and saw friends and even saw some friends that knew he had the acid.
His life, to initially look at him, you would not know that he had a problem. You would not know that he was suffering from alcoholism or, drug addiction or a substance use disorder until probably the last year of his life, when you could see where the drugs began to wear on him.
The first time I used heroin was with my mother. We was sitting in her bedroom on the bed, and she had asked me, did I want to take my high to another level. At that point, I was only snorting heroin, and she told me that I would love the feeling if I did. And so with her doing it, and she had never overdosed, nothing had ever happened to her, I thought it was okay. And so I said, yeah, I'll try it. So she tied my arm up, did what needed to be done, and administered my first shot. So she, in all, taught me how to inject my own self with heroin. And that's when my needle addiction began.
I never wanted my prescription pain pills to end, even after my knee injury was over. I liked the way that they made me feel. They not only took the pain from my knee away, but they gave me this feeling of confidence and just something that I hadn't really felt before. But it was a feeling that always left me, so I would always chase the drugs to get that feeling again. And once I had started making compromises on how I was getting my prescription pain pills, which was not from the doctor anymore, I started compromising on the drugs that I did as well. I was introduced to other forms of drugs.
With me having family members that's already addicts and it was already doing it, they had let me know that it was a better high and didn't let me know the downfalls to becoming addicted to the needle itself. I wish that somebody would have told me, no, don't go to the needle, because the needle itself is an addiction of its own outside of the heroin. But she made it more comforting for me because she was my mom and she was there when I did it. So it made it easy for me to change over.
Well, once I got addicted to pain medication, it started getting to the point to where I wasn't getting that high that I was looking for anymore. So I started wanting that feeling again, and just the pain pills weren't doing it. So I switched to speed. Someone introduced me to methamphetamine, and the first time that I tried it, I was hooked. I just like the way the pain pills were, I didn't want that feeling to go away, but it always went away. So I kept having to chase drug after drug after drug.
Sometime after, I don't know how much longer, in the wee hours in the morning, he tried to call those friends. They didn't answer. He had a message from a friend that said, "Happy birthday, Wiley." And he said, "On acid, help." And he spelled it wrong, HALP.
so they put him in an outpatient setting, an intensive, they call them IOPS, or intensive outpatient. And he said to them, he said, if you put me in intensive outpatient, I won't die. That's what he told them. He said, I need to stay. And I can't do this on my own. I need more help. His insurance wouldn't pay, so he went to IOP, and he probably relapsed about 9 times.
In the beginning, my high was a couple times during the day. It helped me get through work. It helped me have energy. It helped me keep doing what I needed to do. And then it eventually got to where I had to have it. I was feeling bad when I got up, and my focus every day was to go get heroin. There was nothing else that was in my mind other than that. Even though I had a child at home, she was put on the back burner for me to be able to keep from being sick and to be high.
By this time, I'm about 24 years old, and I was working at a factory. I bought a small home in western Kentucky, and I had a drug habit. If I didn't have a drug in my body, I wasn't going to work, and so inevitably I lost my job. And so I had all these bills. I had a mortgage payment, I had a truck payment, I had insurance, and also had a drug habit that I had to pay for. So my full-time job became selling drugs, selling narcotics. Eventually, that all came to an end when police raided my house, and they took me down. I had to go away for a little while.
I got in trouble for shoplifting twice at Walmart. And then I became to where I got so bad that I was doing prostitution on the street, so I would be able to get my heroin every day. And so there was a time or two that I got stopped by the police to find out if that was what I was doing. Luckily, I did not get arrested for it, and I did not have it on my record. But there was a possibility that it could have been. And that became my wake-up call. I went from somebody that was a department head manager at McDonald's. I had worked there for 9 years, to losing my home, my car, sleeping on the street, down to prostitution. I had lost everything at that point. I went and spent some time in jail, and that became a reality check. This is not the life that I want. But sometimes it's hard to get out of that life. It takes more than just you saying you want to get out of it, especially if you're on the street.
And then he ended up going to a sober house, and 3 years later, he was still in a sober house, but he was up in Indianapolis, and he overdosed in a sober house. And he ended up in a coma, and he died 4 days later.
The trip had gone bad. I don't know how bad. I do know how bad. I do know it must have been awful, and I hate to think about it. He took a gun and he shot himself.
The mistake I think that I made early on was moralizing this and thinking we needed to change his behavior, and really what needed to happen was we needed to get him help.
He was born and he died at the same day. He was my sweet baby boy.
It's devastating to all that are involved. I have personally had friends die of an overdose, and it taught me that there's only so much that I could do.
It can happen to anyone. It takes the first try to die. I know too many that have. But it also takes the first try to become addicted, or maybe the second try or the third try. Once that addiction happens, it's a battle that gets out of control for them. They know they cannot just stop. No, they cannot just put it down. They're fighting withdrawals. They're in a hole, and we need to love them and put our arms around them.
I remember when I was young, I walked with the Lord, closely. But as I started becoming a teenager, freshman, sophomore, junior year of high school, I cared a little bit less about Jesus and a lot more about me and what I wanted, which was girls and popularity and things like that, anything a kid would want. And so I think really I was just trying to fill that void that Jesus was feeling in my younger days. I think that I was always wanting that feeling of wholeness and confidence and the feeling of being complete. And for the moments that the drugs kept me high, that's the way I felt. It was just synthetic and it always left. So once the high left, I was lonely again. I was insecure again.
I worked through all that shame and learned, got educated, and after years of dealing with it, there was no shame left when Riley died. I needed to step out and speak, and that's exactly what I did. And God has opened up doors and shown me that what I've been told is true. If we keep it in the dark, it grows. And we need to bring all of this out into the light and educate and speak up and ask for help when we need it. And make sure that there's comfort for those around us, that you're not the only one.
Hope does not put us to shame. There is power